Hi, welcome to my tutorial video on drawing an eye. The template that I've used is attached in the description below. The materials are noted here and also in the description. We have sketched out the outline and the first step is to darken the pupil. A B pencil was used as a base, followed by a softer 6B pencil. The iris is next. We are lightly shading those areas around the iris that are not highlighted. This is the top and bottom of the iris, using a B pencil with a light stroke and a brush to blend. The darker iris patterns are also being added. These radiate from the pupil outwards and from the edges of the iris towards the pupil. I'm also adding the reflection of the eyelashes at the top left. The watery nature of the eyeball is almost mirror-like in its reflective qualities. I'm now working on the sclera, or white of the eye, and just adding a light base of graphite with a B pencil. This will be blended a number of times as we go forwards. The eyelashes below are being slightly redefined. We'll go over those later on, as I don't want them to be lost in the blending process. Some preliminary shading of the tear duct is also happening. There is general shading underneath the eye. It looks quite dark at the moment, but it will blend quite well later on. I'm now defining the lower eyelashes. These are done in strokes which start as a sharp curve from the base of the lower lid, leaving a small gap between them and the eyeball. Make sure they are a bit irregular and slightly different sizes. This will make the eyelashes appear a lot more natural. It's important that we do this in one stroke rather than start-stop. It may be useful to practice drawing the eyelash curves on a separate sheet of paper. We're doing the same with the upper eyelashes. There are quite a number of them. The most distinct and darkest area of shade is the fold between the forehead and upper eyelid. Some preliminary shading is being added, which we will blend later on. We are now redefining the sclera, or white of the eye, and adding a darker shadow above the pupil to reflect the fact that the light source is above the eye. Darker darks are also being added to the pupil, and there is more shading to the eyeball. The process here is basically brushing and blending in the direction of the shapes. Small circular pencil strokes are being added to the boundary between the iris and the white of the eye. This will make it look a lot more natural. We have further refined the tear duct and the shadows. As you can see, the shape is starting to form. We have some darks in there and highlighted areas as well. We are now significantly darkening the upper eyelashes. Some of the lines would have been blurred following our blending. I'm using an 8B pencil here with a firm pressure. The softer pencil adds some excellent darks when you're doing these things. Again, it's important to feel confident when you are drawing these eyelashes. The top of the pupil is being darkened again to reflect that the area is in shadow. We are now shading just under the upper eyelashes, which is in shadow because of the eyelashes and light source above it. The folds and the eyes or slight wrinkles are being defined with a 6B and being brushed in. While not in the original image, we are now adding an eyebrow. This is entirely up to you. The base eyebrow hairs are being added very lightly and in the direction of growth. There is also a slight randomness to them. This adds to the realism in the completed drawing. I've used a technical pencil here to draw the fine blood vessels at the right corner of the eye. These are quite jagged patterns and are not a consistent thickness all the way through. As you can see, some of the areas in the middle of the jagged lines are a bit darker, and the areas around the more shadowed edge of the eyeball are a bit darker, moving to finer, lighter lines as they converge towards the iris. A mono zero eraser is being used here to pick out some of the highlights in the eye itself and surrounding areas. As we did with the right side of the eye, we are now adding the tiny blood vessels to the left of the pupil using the same technique. As we progress towards the finished drawing, we are now redefining the darks in and around the iris of the eye. We are also doing a final blend of the corners of the eyeball. The edges should be darker and then lighter as we move towards the iris. This will enhance the impression that the eye is an orb rather than a flat surface. The tear duct is now being finalised by highlighting the gradations between darks, midtones and lights. The final highlights are being added to the top of the eye and in and around some of the lower lashes. I'm also using a fine black marker here to accentuate the darks in those areas of the upper eyelashes that are closer together at the base. The brightest highlights and lights are being added with a white marker pen to finish out the drawing. Well, I think I'm pretty happy with this, and this is just about complete. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching.